back to the last blog post you read. Did you skim through it as opposed to reading it because the introduction didn't keep your attention? Did the content seem to ramble as opposed to getting to the point in a helpful and practical way? Were you unable to find a helpful next step to continue your journey? If you answered yes to all of these questions, then chances are the author who wrote the blog post didn't pay close enough attention to the structure of their content, and they're suffering the consequences. You, along with many others, stopped reading the post. All effective blog posts have a blueprint. You may not easily see it, but it's there, and it's meant to help you, the reader, through your journey to making a well-informed, confident decision, whatever that decision may be. Here are a list of reasons why your blog post needs structure. To start, it gives you direction. The last thing you want is to stare at a screen frustrated that you don't know what to write about. Next, it will make your content creation time more effective and efficient. Using a template creates helpful guardrails. Without it, you could easily spend your time creating content that may get cut out before publishing. Next, you want readers to easily comprehend what it is you're trying to tell them. If your content is too complicated and unengaging, then chances are readers will abandon it and go elsewhere. There's thousands of blog posts being published every minute, so it's safe to say you're not the only resource out there competing for attention. And lastly, you want your readers to remember what you write about and feel excited and inspired to take the next step in their journey. So if your goal is to attract your ideal audience, engage them with helpful, useful content, and ultimately delight them to the point where they become promoters of your brand by sharing your content with their network, then you need to create content that has structure and tells a story. Before getting started with a blog post, you need to first determine the direction of the content. Let's review an effective way to approach this. To start, choose a topic to write about. At a high level, write educational content. I'm not saying you can't write about your business when it makes sense, but in order to attract someone to your blog, you need to answer the questions and problems that they're searching for answers to. Put yourself in the shoes of your buyer personas. What will they be searching for? What do they want to know more about? What will resonate with them? Consider what you know about your buyer personas and their interests while you're coming up with a topic for your blog post. And when it comes to a topic, make sure to write about your industry, not yourself. Remember, you're trying to attract strangers to your blog who have never heard of your company before. So they're not going to find you through search engines if you're just blogging about yourself. You have the rest of your website to provide that information. But don't just take it from me. Let's hear what HubSpot's product editor-in-chief, Beth Dunn, has to say.
At its core, effective content is relevant and useful to your audience, your reader. It makes your reader, not your company and its revenue targets or goals, your #1 priority. Your writing should use your audience's language and show that you understand their pain points, challenges, and goals. It should be produced to help people, not just sell them on your products or services.
Thanks, Beth. If you're looking for a place to start with creating content that'll positively impact your audience, then ask your coworkers from other teams like sales and services for some ideas. Here are a few questions that you could ask and they could answer. What are the most frequently asked questions you hear? What do our prospects and customers need help with? What do you wish people knew about our industry? What are industry bloggers, social media, and even our competitors talking about? Before you write anything, you need to pick a topic for your blog post. The topic can be pretty general to start with. For example, if you provide running shoes, then it might be a good idea to write about the topic of running. Expand off of this topic. In other words, iterations are different ways of approaching that topic to help you focus your writing. For example, you might decide to narrow your topic to best running shoes for marathons or lifetime of running shoes. When picking your ideas to write about, do keyword research. Keywords are the words and phrases typed into search engines. They're the topics that people are trying to learn more about. Which keywords do your buyer personas use? Which are associated with your industry? Optimizing your blog post for keywords is not about incorporating as many keywords into your post as possible. Nowadays, this actually hurts your search engine optimization because search engines consider this keyword stuffing. It also doesn't make for a good reader experience, a ranking factor that search engines now prioritize to ensure you're answering the intent of your visitors. You should use keywords in your content in a way that doesn't feel unnatural or forced. A good rule of thumb is to focus on one long tail keyword per blog post. A long tail keyword is a very targeted search phrase that contains 3 or more words. It often contains a head term, which is a more generic search term, 1 or 2 words in length. The head terms you choose should align with the topics that you want your business and website to be known for and build authority around. For example, if you want your business to be known for content marketing, then a blog post on 3 steps to organizing a long-term content marketing strategy is a great example of a long tail keyword in support of this topic. And why should you focus on long tail keywords for blog post titles? These longer, often question-based keywords keep your posts focused on the specific goals of your audience. Website visitors searching long-tail terms are more likely to read the whole post and seek information from you. In other words, you'll attract the right type of traffic to your website. If you're brainstorming ideas to write about, there's a good chance you'll create a long list of ideas for topics you want to cover and posts you can create. This will help create a longer-term blogging strategy, making a list of topics that support a specific conversion. For example, if you have an ebook or guide that you want to create and promote, then consider making a list of blog ideas that support this guide's content. This way, if someone finds your blog post and finds the content helpful, that increases the chances of them wanting to click a call to action, also known as a CTA, to access a relevant offer. If you're looking for assistance with blog ideas, then check out HubSpot's Blog Ideas Generator. This free tool will help jumpstart your creative process. Now let's talk about creating a title. Think about how you read things online. You read the title first before you commit. It needs to catch your interest, especially since it's the first thing that will catch a reader's attention. Start by creating a working title for your blog post. A working title is something to work off of as you begin to write your post. Start here to narrow your topic down and focus on one angle. A broad term like social media could breed multiple blog post ideas. A working title like Top Social Media Channels for Live Video in 2019 is now long tail and specific. Once you finish the piece, you'll come back to this title and refine it to be more aligned with the direction you ended up taking in the post. For almost every piece of content, come up with at least 5 to 10 different titles. Make it a rule that you spend a minimum of 5 minutes brainstorming titles. And once you make a list, send to a coworker to get their opinion. Also, make the value of the post clear in the title. Your title should help readers and search engines understand what your post is about. Set the right expectations. What is the reader going to get out of your blog post? What information is covered? What format is the blog post going to take? In this example, the blog post title explicitly tells you that you'll be reading about how to create an infographic. Not only that, but it sets the expectation that it only takes an hour to do so, and there's also free templates included. You know exactly what you're going to get from this blog post, how it's valuable to you, and how much information it contains. When it comes to the art of the perfect blog post title, HubSpot did some research and looked at how our own titles have performed. Here are the consistent principles that were found. The ideal blog post title length is 60 characters. Headlines between 8 and 12 words are shared most often on Twitter. Headlines between 12 and 14 words are liked most often on Facebook. HubSpot also found that headlines ending with a bracketed clarification, like the earlier example with 15 free infographic templates in brackets at the end of the post, performed 38% better than titles without that clarification. If you're having trouble trimming down the length of a title, run it through Moz's title tag preview tool to see how the title will appear on a search engine results page. Google typically displays the first 50 to 60 characters of a title tag. If you keep your titles under 60 characters, you can expect about 90% of your titles to display properly. Title too long? That's okay. Make sure to create a title for your reader first. When you have a lengthy headline, it's a good idea to put your primary keyword, also known as the head term, at the beginning of the title, since it might get cut off toward the end of the search engine results page. In this example, the title got cut off, but the focus keyword, data visualization, is at the front. And there you have it, a step-by-step approach to choosing effective blog topics and descriptive titles. Once you have a topic and title for your blog post, the next step is to create and structure its content. Let's review how to go about this. To start, choose a format for the post so that both people and search engines can easily read and understand it. When writing for your audience, you want to match the attitude of your readers and the subject matter. Consider if your writing should be serious, fun and personable, uplifting, quirky and humorous, or authoritative. Readers might not be able to point out that the tone is what's off-putting about your content and therefore your brand, but it's the little things that can leave a big impression. Your goal should be to create an interesting narrative with each post that your audience can follow. This also starts with having a solid structure for your posts that readers recognize and therefore know what to expect. One easy structure to use is the list formula. Starting with an intro, list out the main points of the article, and then wrap it all up with a strong conclusion. The how-to formula is another easy to use and logical format. It begins with an introduction. There's a section on why this matters to the reader that provides more context, and then you provide details on how to do something in a list format. If you start with the formula for the backbone of your article, it's easier to get started. It will be overwhelming to write an introduction without knowing where the piece is going to go. Start by filling in the main points and save writing the introduction and conclusion for after you've written the piece or created a solid architecture for the post. When writing an intro, make it captivating. If you lose the reader in the first few paragraphs or even sentences of the introduction, they'll stop reading even before they've given your post a read through. Grab their attention, use humor, be empathetic, or grip the reader with an interesting fact or statistic. And describe the purpose of the post and explain how it will address a problem the reader may be having. It should be a follow-up to the title they found interesting. This will give the reader a reason to keep reading and give them a connection to how it will help them improve. If you read the first few lines of this blog post, would you want to keep reading? What about this blog post? Keep your buyer persona in mind and think about what would entice them to keep on reading. And what about the rest of your blog post? The body of your blog post is where your readers will undoubtedly derive the most value. HubSpot did an analysis and found the ideal blog post length is roughly 2,100 words. But that will vary depending on your topic. Always solve for the reader first. Make sure you cover your topic in full and have met the expectations that your blog title promised. Let's review some formatting best practices to ensure you're creating effective blog posts that are remembered. Mention your keyword at a normal cadence throughout the body of your post and in the headers when it makes sense. That means including your keywords in your copy, but only in a natural, reader-friendly way. Don't go overboard though, at the risk of being penalized for keyword stuffing. Whenever you create content, your primary focus should be on what matters to your audience, not how many times you can include a keyword or keyword phrase in that content. Here's a pro tip to avoid keyword stuffing. Consider writing the synonyms of your keyword as opposed to keyword stuffing. For example, digital nomad is a main topic I write about often, but instead of repeating that term over and over in my content, I change it up with synonyms like remote worker or telecommuter. And while text is one of the most important facets of an effective blog post, your content needs to be more than just text. You need to pay attention to how you present the content. Which brings me to my next best practice: whitespace is your friend. Whitespace is the empty space on the page. It allows the visitor to focus on the content, not the clutter. Don't write long paragraphs that form into huge blocks of text. This will make your information look dense and hard to read. As you can see in this example, there's plenty of white space on the side margins of the post, around the title and first image, and between the paragraphs of text within the post. The space makes the post more easily digestible. Nothing is crammed together, and though the post is long, it doesn't feel overwhelming or hard to read. You can also break up the text in your blog post by using subheaders and bullets or numbered lists to highlight your points. Subheaders are also another on-page SEO element. Subheaders organize and break up your blog post into different sections to signal to Google and your reader what the post will cover. Subheaders should be written with H2 tags or smaller, never H1 tags, which signal a title. Use subheaders to split up sections of your blog post. For example, this blog post is a section on creating ideas on your own. Notice how it offers subheadings within this section as well to continue splitting up content to make it easier to digest. I did this using an H3 tag. Bolding important text can also help readers quickly understand the key takeaways from the post. Though, don't go overboard with bolding. If the majority of a paragraph is bolded, then it's possible your reader won't retain the important information you want them to remember. Here's a pro tip. Consider only bolding one sentence per paragraph and possibly just bolding one sentence every few paragraphs. In this case, less is more. Once you've finished the text portion of your post, don't forget to make it stand out with the use of visuals and multimedia elements to break up your text. Start by using a featured image. A featured image usually sits at the top of a blog post and is another element to draw readers in to learn more. A featured image is also the image that shows up on social media when your content is shared. The image should reflect what the story is about, intrigue readers, or provoke them. It doesn't need to directly illustrate what your post is about, but they should be loosely related to your content. While most people enjoy a great cat photo, it may not always be relevant to your content. And throughout the body of your blog post, use multimedia content wherever it's possible to break up the blog post and re-engage your reader. Add images, videos, audio recordings, embedded social media posts, and so on. HubSpot sometimes includes an audio version of the blog post or includes a video on the related topic. It changes it up for the reader, but also helps them digest the content in a different way. Changing up the format of your blog post will provide additional value to your reader while making sure eyes are focused on what they're reading and seeing. See the difference? The blog post without any visuals looks a lot less interesting and welcoming. Before moving on, don't forget about mobile. Mobile users consume more than 2 times the minutes online compared to desktop users. This means having a blog that's responsive or designed for mobile has become more and more critical. Make sure to keep mobile in mind as you structure your blog post. What would the experience be like if someone were to read your blog post on their mobile phone instead of a desktop computer? Would you format it differently? And there you have it, the fundamental strategy and best practices for creating and structuring content that attracts, engages, and delights your ideal audience. Once you've formatted your blog post content, you'll want to optimize it for readers as well as search engines. To help search engines understand what you're trying to communicate, optimize your post accordingly. You already optimized the title and body of your post, but there's a list of other optimizations you should consider as well. Let's review each. Let's start with the URL. The URL doesn't have to match the title of the blog exactly. Instead, make it a best practice to shorten the URL without losing context to what the page is about. For example, notice how the URL of this blog post is shorter than the title. This way, I can update the content over time without updating the URL. Here's a pro tip. Don't include numbers in your URL, like years or steps. This way, if you update the content in the future, you won't have to update the URL. Updating the URL creates a 301 redirect. A 301 redirect is a permanent redirect from one URL to another. Making updates to URLs hurts your SEO, and you don't want that. Moving on to image alt text. Search engines don't just look for images, rather they look for images with alt text. Because search engines can't see images the same way humans can, an image's alt text tells them what an image is about, which ultimately helps those images rank in the image section of search engine results. Consider optimizing your images with different descriptive variations of your long tail keyword. Next up is your meta description. Your meta description is meant to give search engines and readers information about your blog post content. The maximum suggested length of a meta description is 150 to 160 characters. Anything longer than that will most likely be cut off. Keep in mind that copy matters a great deal for click-through rates because it satisfies certain readers' intent. The more engaging, the better. In addition to being reader-friendly, compelling, and relevant, your meta description should include the long tail keyword for which you're trying to optimize for. But keep in mind that a search engine may not choose to use your meta description as the descriptive text in search results. Search engines are funny that way. And lastly, insert links strategically throughout your post. As you attract more and more visitors to your blog, that increased traffic means an increased opportunity to build a relationship, gain trust, and generate more leads and eventually customers. Let's review some best practices when it comes to using links effectively in your blog posts. First, link to external content when it's helpful or supports a stat or claim you're making. It takes a lot of work to attract someone to your site and gain their trust. The last thing you want to do is send them off your site unless it's something that supports your content. I'm not saying you shouldn't link to content that's not your own, but just do so thoughtfully and make sure it provides value. Here's a pro tip. When linking to external websites, consider having that content open in a new window. This way, you're being helpful without redirecting someone off your site. Next, link to other helpful blog posts on your site. If you find yourself typing a sentence or a paragraph that can be explained in more detail on another blog post, then link to it. This helps you in 2 ways. It solves for the reader. allowing and encouraging them to continue binging your content. And it solves for the search engine as it communicates to them that there's a cluster of related content on your site. And if search engines deem your cluster of web content around a specific topic as a credible source, then that can help boost your visibility on the search engines. Which brings me to my last point. Link to important content on your site that supports conversions. When it comes to deciding on where to insert CTAs on your blog posts, here are 4 places to consider. Let's review each. First, consider inserting a CTA after the first few paragraphs. To avoid looking too pushy too soon, try including a passive CTA through hyperlink text as opposed to using an image. It's important to include these passive CTAs near the top, as you can't always count on your visitor reading your entire post to take the next step. Think about it. Do you read to the end of every blog post that you click on? Probably not. HubSpot performs CTA tests all the time, from image and text CTAs to placement of the CTAs. We're always looking for ways to improve click-through rate. Interestingly enough, we found that text CTAs near the top of blog posts produce the highest click-through rates, something you may want to keep in mind and test on your blog posts. I recommend linking to pillar pages with CTAs at the top of the page as the content is not gated, meaning you're not forcing someone to give you their email address just yet in exchange for something. Instead, you can lead with educational content which solves for your reader first. Plus, your pillar pages should support one, if not multiple conversions, so that can help the reader through their journey accordingly while gaining their trust along the way. Next, include an image or text CTA near the most relevant content in the body of the post. The best time to support a conversion is just after educating someone. For example, Townsend Security, a full-service data security provider, included an image CTA to a relevant podcast download in this blog post. Notice how the CTA content is similar to the content it's paired with. Next, include an image CTA at the end of each post. If someone reads your post to the end, then you want to offer them a helpful next step. This is a CTA at the end of the same post that was shown earlier. The title of the post is Data Visualization 101, How to Choose the Right Chart or Graph for Your Data. And at the bottom, there's a CTA for an ebook on how to present data people can't ignore. When it comes to image CTAs at the end of blog posts, I recommend linking these to a relevant landing page with a form. Another option, which brings me to the last CTA placement, is a pop-up CTA that the reader sees as they scroll down the page. This is a great way to have your CTA stick around so that the reader doesn't just scroll past it. If you really want to engage your users and have a helpful conversation, then consider offering live chat or a chatbot. A chatbot is a computer program that automates certain tasks, typically by chatting with the user through a conversational interface. Most bots follow a set of rules programmed by a human via a bot building platform. It's as simple as ordering a list of if-then statements and writing canned responses, often without needing to know a line of code. The benefit? A bot will guide you, the visitor, through the various options available and help you get from point A to point B quickly. Behind the curtain, the bot is leading you through a series of dependent questions to collect the necessary information to understand your intent and then deliver the right content to satisfy your needs. And that's it. Now you know how to effectively optimize your blog post content. Keep these tips in mind when optimizing your posts, as it will ensure you're getting the most value out of your business blogging efforts.